So I want to share important concept of sacrifice. The first is religious sacrifice. But it's an important thing. There's what they call religious sacrifice. The simple principle behind religious sacrifice is that they prefer what? Sacrifice to obedience. Because they think sacrifice is by magnitude. No, sacrifice is by obedience. You must know the principle of God's sacrifice is what? Obedience. It's not showcasing. That's why you see so many people, they like to announce themselves like Ananias and Sapphira. Look at the way they honored Barnabas, son of consolation. When they see the way they honor son of consolation, they say they want to be like this. So they brought their own sacrifice. Why? To show off, not out of obedience. Not because the Lord has said, not because the community needs it, not because it will advance the purpose of God, but because it will show off. So it was not a matter of obedience. And look at what they said. They said we brought all. It's about magnitude for them. Sacrifice is not about magnitude. It's about cost. What did David say? I will not give to the Lord that will cost me nothing. It's about cost. But for these people, it was not cost. It was what? Recognition. So many people's sacrifice is recognition. I fasted 400 days. They boast about it for recognition. That's what Ananias and Sapphira wanted. But there are people who are fasting from the day they were born and nobody knows about it. But some people, it's all about bragging rights. So that everybody will know that they are men and women of war. And please, I'm not pointing fingers because I just remember some people have maybe mentioned this. You now think maybe I'm not referring to anybody. I'm speaking about the principle here. That you must know that it's something called religious sacrifice. The emphasis is usually the sacrifice over the obedience. And the obedience factor is the most important thing to God. There's a story I like to use to explain this. I watched a program on TBN many years ago. I don't know the woman of God's name, but he never left me. The story was this. She was at the airport. She saw a very old man being wheeled in on a wheelchair by an air hostess. And she said to herself, God, don't talk to me about this man. No, just let me focus front. So why? He said, I can't preach to this one. God, I said, who told you I was going to tell you to preach to him? Thank you. He said, and God Kumbi said, then I said, God, I will preach. You see, when the instruction was not preach, when she thought the instruction was preach, she could not preach. Now that the instruction is don't preach, she wants to preach. Obedience is the principle of God's kingdom, but the religious mind doesn't want it. End of the day, she went and obeyed the Lord and went to comb the man's hair. She now said, since I've already combed, he said, let me still preach to him. As she was preaching, the man said, I'm born again. He said, wow, no wonder God has not preached. Just comb the man said, nobody has helped him comb his hair. Is rough and scattered. The air hostess that was pulling the man was just crying. Say, what kindness. And I was here, I couldn't do it. Just felt embarrassed. I felt whatever. Now the gospel now went to that lady. She gave her life to Christ. Obedience is better than sacrifice, but the religious mind doesn't care. He cares about magnitude. God says, go and tell your neighbor sorry for what you did. He said, I will go and do a crusade for you. Magnitude. Go and preach to your father before he dies. I will go and preach to the village instead. Magnitude is what religion is all about. The magnitude of the sacrifice. God is concerned about the obedience in that sacrifice. You obey. Religion sacrifices the greater good for the lesser good. So a religious man will see a victim of armed robbers on the road, and he will rather choose to go and serve in the church. Remember the story of the Good Samaritan. The priest, they saw the man that was victimized. They left this one to go somewhere else. You remember the story that Jesus Christ gave in Matthew 23, rebuking the Pharisees, telling them that you prefer to give tithes of every single grain of rice. You know what they do? They will count a bag of rice. They will count every grain. They don't give it 10%. That's how they did that. That kind of diligence. They prefer that than the weightier matters of what? Justice, faith, and mercy.